Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is February 18th, and today we're going to take a look at that much anticipated system moving down over the Pacific Northwest on into this weekend. We'll also take a brief look around the rest of the country as well too. And then we'll take a look at the extended forecast for the Pacific Northwest. We'll compare the GFS and the European models there. And we're going to look at some detail on this system here. As you can see it taking shape here on the infrared satellite, moving across the south coast of Alaska. So it's going to swing down through southeast Alaska and into the region, bring some pretty strong onshore flow, some really heavy mountain snows, and potential for some snow down into the lowland here as we get some Fraser River Arctic outflow into the region here going on into Monday night into Tuesday. So jumping right into things here, you can see we've got the high wind warnings for Montana as this next system brings some Arctic air through portions of the northern states and on into the Great Lakes there. You can see the winter weather advisories, some blizzard warnings, and some winter storm warnings going on there. Most of the southern half, the lower 48, is pretty quiet, as you can see here, as that severe weather is kind of moved through yesterday and it's really out of the picture now. So jumping back into the Pacific Northwest here, you can see some pretty good snowfall totals expected coming up here. There's going to be some places that get under some convergence zone bands that get over a foot and a half even of snow here coming up in the next few days with this winter storm just blasting into our area. You can see we've got winter storm watches across the region here, and up to 20 inches possible for some areas. So if you're off in the backcountry, heads up, there's going to be some gusty winds, and this is going to get all the way down into the pass areas. The snow levels are going to be pretty low going into later this weekend here. So here we're checking out the GFS versus the European model here. This is last night's run. We're just going to take a brief look at this. And you can see the sharp trough digging out over the Pacific Northwest here. Pretty good model agreement there. And this is what's going to bring our cold air coming up here. So we're going to take a look at some detail there. You can see there's pretty good model agreement. This ridge peeled back enough or retrograded enough to allow this sharp trough to get down into our area here. So we're going to look at the extended here in more detail coming up. And this is a closer look here at that upper level flow. This is the morning's, or last night's run actually, going on into this morning for the European. Good agreement on this trough, opening them up over the region. Here we are into Monday afternoon. And checking out the cold air aloft here, this gives a pretty good picture of what's on the way. This is at 10,000 feet, and you can see how it really cools down as we get into Sunday afternoon. Get some really cold air over us. As we go on into Monday afternoon here, you can see this cold air really taking up shop here over British Columbia here. Again, this is at 10,000 feet, and this is at 5,000 feet here, 850 millibars. That cold air comes out of the northwest like a train over the area. And once you get to about -6, you can start talking about some lowland snow accumulations. And you see we start to reach that here on Monday morning. That's going to be our period where we can get some convergent bands and potentially some snowfall accumulation. And there is a convective nature to some of this precipitation here too. So I wouldn't be surprised to get a thunderstorm on somewhere around western Washington, western Oregon on into Monday morning, which would only increase the chance of some lowland snow. But again, this is not a big snow event for the lowlands. This is not going to be below freezing for long. Anything that falls is going to start melting as soon as the precipitation moves off the area. So we're not going back into the icebox like we were in December, but this is a huge snowmaker for portions of the Cascades and the Rockies of British Columbia, and you're definitely going to notice the change to some colder air getting into our region here. This is at 925 millibars, 2,500 feet, and you'll notice this cold air again blasting in here from the northwest. And once you get down around -1, -2, you can start to see some lowland snow going on here. So you can see we're really marginal for that. We do have some of those temperatures here, -2, -3 aloft. And some colder air will settle over the region on into later Tuesday. But at that point, a lot of this moisture is going to have departed from the region here. So we'll have to see what kind of residual troughing and bands of convergence are left here going on into Monday afternoon. So checking out the wind and wind direction here, you can see the system digging into our area here. Powerful onshore flow, convergence zone activity going on here Monday night. Heavy Cascade snowfalls through Washington. Then Oregon will get their fair share as we go on into Sunday here. And you can see you've got northwest flow around Vancouver Island, and you've got still the westerlies coming around the Olympic Mountains here. So you've got convergence zone potential here for areas of the Puget Sound. And then you've got some pretty cold air being brought in aloft into western Oregon too. It's going to bring snowfall to the coastal ranges also. But again, any powerful areas of convergence or heavier showers can bring that snow level down to near the surface here, going on into late Monday night into, late Sunday night into Monday morning. And then as you see, as we go into Monday morning, you see the Fraser River outflow start up here. And this has been hinting at some of the upslope flow into Port Angeles area there and bringing some snowfall along the Olympic Peninsula. We'll look at that in a little bit more detail too. As you can see, these offshore winds start to take over the area here. So we might be looking at some nice, chilly, sunny days on into early next week. This is the GFS now. We've been concentrating on the Euro, and you can see that system as it blasts down again into the northern states. And this is what's going to open up the trough over us. As you can see, Arctic air start to come down into British Columbia. And this troughing kind of holds on, as you can see here, as we get some pretty good Arctic air up there into British Columbia. I mean, it's not a full-on Arctic outbreak by any means, but it is a little bit, it is an Arctic air mass. So we're talking about this troughing here. And you can see as we go into Monday night, this really starts to push down. There's going to be some residual precipitation still going on across portions of western Washington and into western Oregon here at this time. So we do have a little bit of snowfall potential for the lowlands, but again, not a huge event. And now we're going to take a look at the actual map here. This is the European. As you can see, the system come in and really bring some intense snowfall amounts to portions of the Cascades. These convergence zone band really setting up here Monday night over the Cascades, central Cascades. And then this starts to spread south into Oregon for the Cascades. Mainly rain for most areas. Unless you're under one of these heavier bands, you're going to be seeing rain as you go through Sunday. And then you can see it flirts with some areas. You might see some snow mixed in as you get into Sunday night, but I don't expect much accumulation Sunday night. This should be more of a Monday morning type thing. As you can see, we get into Monday morning, and some of that looks like it changes more into snowfall. And again, there is some convective nature to these bands of convergence coming down there. So the key is being underneath one of those as the transition occurs here on Monday morning into Monday afternoon. And there is lightning potential with some of these convective bands as well. So there could be even small hail mixed in with that. This is the NAM, the lower resolution value, but you can see on into Monday night, the convergence zone bands, the big snowfalls going on through the Cascades. And this precip hangs on all the way into Monday evening around the region here as we start getting colder air filtering in. And some pretty good northwest winds that can create that Vancouver Island convergence zone over the Puget Sound, which can bring some snowflakes down to the surface. No guarantees on things sticking though. And here we're looking at Bellingham. This is 6-hour max gust. And you can see as the system comes in here, it's going to be, maybe lower 30s as you get that southwest wind moving through Bellingham. Then you can see the offshore flow here. Look at this start to kick in Monday afternoon. You can see some pretty gusty winds, maybe up around 40 miles an hour as this comes out of the Fraser River Gap and across the San Juans there. So that is what that's marking here, those outflow winds. And this is for SeaTac. You can see these are northerly winds that are going to eventually make their way down the Sound as this modified Arctic air mass takes over the region here, and it's going to dry us out pretty good here as we go on into Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday. As you can see, the winds start to die down as you get on into Wednesday night. This is the gusty winds that will accompany the cold front with the system as it moves through Saturday afternoon. You can see nothing too crazy, but something around 30 miles per hour can be expected. And this is SeaTac International Airport, the latest European run out. And most of this is just going to be, you might see some flakes, but a lot of this is going to be melting as it falls. That's the important thing to remember here. So if you're looking at these ensemble runs thinking, hey, we might get 1.5 inches of snowfall, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed with that. You might see some snowflakes, but again, the temperatures at the surface are going to be pretty marginal here. And checking those out, you can see you're just in the mid 30s here, which unless you're on a convective band, that's the exception. If you get under a convective band, you can see some brief accumulation down on the hilltops or even a little bit lower towards sea level. But again, it's just going to be brief. You can see we cool off pretty good here on into Tuesday night here too. Check this out. We might get down into the 20s on into Wednesday morning. So that's something to watch for there too. We might get a decent freeze there as we go into Wednesday morning with this colder Arctic air mass taking residence over the region there. This is Portland too, and again, you're going to be fooled a little bit if you're looking at this expecting these kind of snowfall totals. A lot of this is going to be melting as it falls. These temperatures are very marginal. You're going to be in the mid 30s probably, again, unless you're under some kind of convective band. So don't just look at ensemble snowfall members and start thinking you're going to get snowfall of this kind of magnitude around Portland. Here are the temperatures for that time too. You can see they cool off pretty good. And this is the transition where the precip is going to be falling here too. So that colder air starts making its way down in there, and it just looks like a very marginal event. So I wouldn't be expecting accumulating snowfalls down at the surface there in the Portland metropolitan area. But as you can see there, they were getting pretty cold there on into Wednesday morning as well. So this is the European, the most recent run here. And look at these snowfall totals for the Cascades. Really heavy snowfall amounts. This is 24-hour totals here. So you can see up close to 2 feet for some of these regions that are going to the higher terrain, or if you get under a convergence zone band. So if you're in the backcountry, heads up, Stevens, Snoqualmie, going across Highway 2 or I-90, Highway 12, you're going to be in for some severe winter weather driving conditions. And you can see the snowfall pile up pretty good through the gorge there a bit too, a few inches. And the Cascades of Oregon get their fair share too. Northeast Portland, and again, once you're driving eastbound on I-90 through Washington, or you're coming out of Oregon eastbound, prepare for winter weather conditions through the Rockies of Idaho and Montana. Now we're looking at Cape potential here. This is for as the system comes in Saturday, and mainly I'm looking at Sunday and Monday. You can see the afternoon here on Sunday, some pretty good Cape values around. So there's a potential for a lightning strike, especially in any heavier showers. We're going to Monday, and we kind of do that again here too. As you can see, the Cape is still available for some of these residual bands of precipitation as they move through, as the colder air starts to make its way into the region. Here's the latest European here. This is lightning flash density. I like to show this one too. This seems to be pretty accurate. This has picked up the last couple convergence zones that have caused lightning strikes near downtown Seattle and SeaTac. So you can see some of that activity there hanging around the central southern Puget Sound here as you go into Sunday afternoon. Check out eastern Washington too. They've got pretty good signal here with a strong onshore flow and the cold air aloft coming in there. And as we go into Monday, you'll see kind of a bit of a repeat of that for western Washington down in towards Portland. Willamette Valley even could get on the action with these heavier bands of precip that are moving in with a strong onshore flow ahead of that Arctic high that's pushing down over the region. As we go into Monday afternoon, you can still see signal for some lightning around there. So that's what I'll be looking for too. We'll be able to look at that a little bit more tomorrow and even on into Sunday morning here too. This is the UW model, also kind of highlighting that potential for just a slight chance of a thunderstorm moving through western portions. It doesn't really highlight the potential as much as the European did for eastern portions of the state. So we'll see who wins that round. Now checking out here, this is accumulated model snowfall here. This is what would actually accumulate on the ground. And you can see there's kind of a signal here for areas north of Seattle, south of Everett, and even over the San Juans and Whidbey Island. And you can see how it starts to pile up a little bit over Port Angeles too. Now watch these winds as they come across. And this is for Monday morning, by the way. As these north winds start to come across, northeast winds come across the Puget Sound up towards the mountains here of the Olympic range, and they start hitting that, and you'll get some upslope flow, and you'll start to get accumulating snowfall on Highway 101 in this scenario. So you can kind of see those winds come across the sound, and as soon as they hit the mountains there, you'll notice that snowfall start to build up there. But you can see a little bit of snowfall all the way down on the I-5 corridor there, maybe accumulating Olympic Peninsula, north of Seattle there, Everett. But again, it's going to be a very slushy, wet type of snowfall, and it's probably going to happen under a convergence zone. So we'll be able to look at this tomorrow and Sunday morning too, to kind of pick up on how these models trend with this. You can see up towards Bellingham there, Skagit, Whatcom counties, maybe a little bit of lowland snowfall. This is the lower resolution model. You can see how the higher resolution probably handling things better. This is showing some more significant snowfall getting all the way out into the Seattle region here. But this is basically the same model input. It's just different resolution. You can see how that differs. I just wanted to kind of point that out. So let's take a look at a comparison between the GFS on the left and the European on the right here coming up. This is last night's 0Z run. And as we put this into motion, you can see short-term, pretty good model agreement here as the trough carves out over the northwest. You see the ridge, similar positions here. And as we go into the future a little bit here, you'll see a difference on the European, kind of bringing a system on the east side of that ridge as that high displaces more north over Alaska. And you can see similarities lie over the Aleutian Islands here as the deep troughing is on both the model runs. We'll keep going into the future here. And they're in pretty good agreement of that troughing out here. The GFS is a little bit further west across the Bering Sea. And you'll notice this European has a pretty strong high, a ridge well over the North Pole here, guiding systems down into the lower 48. A little bit different than what the GFS shows, even though it doesn't have a strong system moving down, but mainly into Canada. And going into the future here, you can see they both have some agreement here in the extended about a decent system moving through the Pacific Northwest next weekend. So we'll keep watching that. It's kind of just fun to see how these models disagree. You can see this really strong ridging right over the North Pole and the European. So that's kind of an interesting look here, but they do kind of agree on that general troughing pattern over the Aleutian Islands here. So it's not out of the question to swing a system through the Pacific Northwest here. This is more of a windstorm type scenario here for the Pacific Northwest. And this is as far out as the GFS goes here, or the European goes here. And you can see not many similarities at that point, but it does have this system here going into the next weekend. So we'll see how that evolves and how that takes place. But anyway, we will look at this closer tomorrow and on into Sunday morning as well before the event gets here. And then we'll talk about it on into Sunday and Monday as well. But right now, models are in good agreement about this system coming down. There is some chance for a bit of lowland snow. It would be brief accumulation, kind of wet, and it's not going to stick around at all. The temperatures aren't going to be below freezing during the event, even though we might get cold there on into Tuesday night into Wednesday morning as we get down to the 20s for some areas of the Puget Sound. So there could be some slick roadways then. But we'll take a more in-depth look at it tomorrow as the NAM3KM, the higher resolution models, start to get in range of this system. We'll get even more data at that point. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.